Verstappen is not just angry because his race ended. He is angry because Red Bull's car may now be destroying its own championship from the inside. Think about this. Engine issue headlines. Another did not finish. An early retirement. A major Red Bull change after the cause of a previous failure was found. Then Silverstone, another disaster, another accident, another race where Verstappen was left with nothing instead of fighting to the finish. That is not bad luck anymore. That is a warning sign. Because Max can fight Ferrari. He can fight Mercedes. He can fight McLaren. He can fight pressure, traffic, strategy, tire wear, and almost any driver on the grid. But he cannot fight a car that keeps taking itself out of the race. And that is what makes this so dangerous for Red Bull. A fast car that does not finish is not a weapon. It is a liability. A champion who cannot trust the machine underneath him is not attacking anymore. He is surviving. And if Verstappen's fury after the accident exposed the real reason behind Red Bull's repeated failures, then every rival just got the one thing they needed most: hope. Because the question is no longer, can anyone beat Max Verstappen on pure pace? The question is much worse for Red Bull. Can Red Bull stop its own car from beating him first? Subscribe to the channel. To understand why Verstappen's anger feels different this time, you have to understand what a did not finish does to a driver like him. It does not just take points away. It takes control away. And control is the one thing Verstappen has built his entire Formula One identity around. When Max Verstappen is in the car, he does not usually look like someone reacting to the race. He looks like someone forcing the race to react to him. He can pressure rivals into mistakes. He can make a difficult car look manageable. He can turn one small opening into a result that changes the whole weekend. That is why Red Bull has trusted him so much. Because when the car is fast, Verstappen makes it look unstoppable. And when the car is not perfect, Verstappen often hides a weakness. But there is one weakness even he cannot hide: reliability. If the car stops, the driver is powerless. If the engine fails, the driver cannot overtake his way out of it. If a technical issue forces retirement, there is no tire management trick, no radio strategy, no late braking move, no miracle lap that can bring the result back. The race is gone. That is why this pattern is so dangerous for Red Bull. The source points to engine issues causing another did not finish, Verstappen explaining an early retirement, and Red Bull confirming a major change after finding the cause of a previous Monaco did not finish. Those details matter because they all point toward the same fear. The car is not only being judged by how fast it is being judged by whether it survives. And in Formula One, survival is not a bonus. It is a foundation. A fast car that does not finish can destroy a championship faster than a slow car that consistently scores points. Because a slow car still gives a team something to work with. It gives data. It gives points. It gives the driver a finish. It lets the team limit the damage. But a did not finish gives nothing. 0 points. 0 recovery. 0 control. And that is exactly why Verstappen's frustration matters. He is not the kind of driver who panics after one bad result. He has seen pressure before. He has survived title fights, hostile crowds, rival attacks, strategy stress, weather chaos, and brutal wheel-to-wheel battles. He knows that Formula One can be cruel, but repeated reliability trouble is different because it makes the driver ask a question no champion wants in his head. Can I trust this car to reach the end? That question changes everything. Before a race, a driver wants to think about attack, the start, the first corner, tire temperature, overtaking zones, where the rival is weak, where the car can be pushed, how to turn pressure into advantage. He does not want to think about whether the car will betray him before the finish. That is why reliability problems are psychological, not just mechanical. A technical failure begins in the garage, but its consequences live inside the driver's mind. The next time Verstappen hears something unusual, it matters more. The next time the team asks him to manage a setting, it sounds heavier. The next time a warning appears, even briefly, it carries a memory of the race that ended too soon. That is how doubt enters. And doubt is not loud at first. It does not always look like fear. Verstappen may still sound aggressive. He may still attack corners. He may still fight rivals hard. But at the very top level, Even the smallest question can cost performance. A tiny hesitation at corner entry, a slightly safer lift, a moment spent thinking about the car instead of the rival. That is enough, because Formula One is measured in tiny margins. A tenth can decide track position. Track position can decide strategy. Strategy can decide whether a driver spends the race attacking or defending. So when reliability starts damaging confidence, it does not only risk retirements, it risks pace. And that is where Red Bull's problem becomes bigger. If Verstappen believes the car is fragile, the team may have to protect it. If the team protects it, they may have to compromise performance. If they compromise performance, rivals get closer. If rivals get closer, Verstappen has to push harder. If he pushes harder, the car faces more stress. That is the trap. Push and risk another failure. Protect and risk being beaten. That is the kind of choice championship teams hate. Because the best teams do not want to choose between speed and survival. They want both. They want a car that can be attacked with lap after lap, without the driver wondering if the machine is living on the edge of another problem. Red Bull's rivals understand this perfectly. They do not need the full technical details to smell opportunity. They just need to see repeated disruption. Engine issue headlines, early retirements, major changes, another Silverstone disaster, another angry Verstappen, another weekend where Red Bull has to explain what went wrong. That is enough to change the atmosphere, because rivals do not only race the stopwatch, they race belief. If Ferrari believes Red Bull is vulnerable, they push harder. If Mercedes believe Verstappen can lose points through reliability, they stay closer. If McLaren believes Red Bull is no longer bulletproof, they take more aggressive strategic risks. That is how a team's weakness becomes everyone else's weapon. And this is why Verstappen's anger is so important. His fury is not just noise. It is a signal to the paddock that Red Bull's problems are not hidden anymore. The driver feels them. The driver is tired of them. The driver knows that every did not finish gives rivals exactly what they need. Hope. For years, Verstappen has been one of the least hopeful opponents in Formula One. If he was ahead, rivals feared the gap would grow. If he was behind, they feared he would come back. If the Red Bull was not perfect, they still feared Max would find something extra. That fear is part of dominance. But reliability problems attack fear. They make the unbeatable look dependent. They remind everyone that even Verstappen needs the car to live. And once the grid sees that, the emotional balance changes. A rival who once thought second place was a realistic target may now believe a win is possible. A team that once avoided unnecessary risk may decide to gamble. A driver who once thought Verstappen would recover from anything may decide to fight harder, because maybe this time Red Bull will not have enough margin. That is the first major shift. Verstappen's accident and did not finish did not only damage his race, it gave the rest of the grid permission to believe Red Bull can hurt itself. And for a championship team, that is terrifying. Because once rivals believe you're vulnerable, they stop waiting. They attack. But the second layer is where Verstappen's anger becomes more than frustration. It becomes a warning to Red Bull. Because when a car fails once, the team can call it bad luck, a faulty part, a strange reading, a problem that appeared at the wrong time. The engineers can explain it, replace something, and move forward. But when reliability issues start forming a pattern, the conversation changes. Now the question is not, what broke? The question becomes, why does something keep breaking? That is the part that hurts Red Bull most. The source points toward a wider run of trouble around Verstappen. Engine issue headlines. Another did not finish. An early retirement that needed explaining. A major Red Bull change after the cause of a Monaco did not finish was found. Then Silverstone adds another disaster to the pile. One problem can be contained. Several problems start to define the car. And once the car becomes defined by failure, every race weekend begins with doubt. That doubt spreads quietly at first. It starts in the garage, where every sensor reading gets a second look. Every unusual sound matters more. Every temperature warning feels heavier. Every component change becomes part of a bigger story. Then it reaches the driver. And for Verstappen, that is the dangerous part. Because a driver like Max does not want to think about survival. He wants to think about attack. He wants to know where the grip is, where the rival is vulnerable, where the overtake can happen, where the tires can be pushed, and where the race can be controlled. He does not want to wonder whether the car will last. That question should never be in the front of his mind. But repeated did not finish his force it there. And when that happens, even a champion has to drive inside a different mental space. Not slower in an obvious way, not scared, but aware. Aware that the car has already let him down. Aware that a race can disappear without warning. Aware that all the speed in the world means nothing if the machine cannot finish the job. That awareness changes pressure. It turns every race from a fight against rivals into a fight against uncertainty. And that is exactly what Red Bull cannot afford. Because Red Bull's strength has always been the opposite. Certainty. Ruthless execution. The feeling that Verstappen and the car were one combined threat. If rivals made a mistake, Max would punish it. If Red Bull had clean air, the race would come under control. If the weekend was difficult, Verstappen would still drag it toward a result. But reliability breaks that identity. It makes Red Bull look human. And rivals feed on that. A rival team does not need to know every technical detail to attack a weakness. It only needs to believe the weakness exists. If Ferrari, Mercedes, or McLaren see Red Bull struggling to keep Verstappen's car alive, they start changing how they race. They push earlier. They pressure longer. They stop settling. They force Red Bull into harder choices. That is how a reliability problem becomes a race strategy problem. Because if rivals can keep Verstappen under stress, Red Bull may have to decide whether to push the car harder or protect it. If they push, they risk another failure. If they protect, they may lose pace. Either way, the rival has created discomfort. That is a trap. And once a team is in that trap, every decision becomes heavier. Engine modes, cooling choices, tire strategy, pit timing, defensive driving, even how aggressively Verstappen attacks curves. Everything starts carrying the shadow of reliability. That is why the phrase, "the car is destroying itself," is so powerful. It does not mean the car is literally falling apart every lap. It means the car is damaging its own season by turning race opportunities into retirements, technical changes, explanations, and lost trust. That is what destroys momentum. Not only the failure itself, the aftermath, the questions, the uncertainty, the feeling that another problem may be waiting. And Verstappen's fury tells you that he understands the cost. He knows how quickly a championship can swing when did not finishes start appearing. He knows that 1-0 can be survivable, but repeated zeros can change the standings. He knows that rivals do not need to beat him every Sunday. If Red Bull keeps removing itself from contention, that is the nightmare scenario. Imagine a race where Verstappen has the pace for a podium. The car fails. Imagine another where he has the pace to win. The engine issue appears. Imagine another where the team finds a cause, makes a major change, and still has to explain more trouble later. That is how a title fight slips away. Not through one dramatic collapse, through repeated stolen results. And that is why Red Bull's response now has to be different.